to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Welcome to part 2 of my interview with Akashic Records expert Rebecca Lyons. Last week was part 1, and as I said at the end of that episode, I want to give our conversation about her near-death experience the attention it deserves. So, listen close, there's much to learn. And I feel terrible because we messaged back and forth some, and I knew something wasn't right, but I did not know how serious that it was. So, and I was wanting to ask you...
And don't feel terrible at all. Yeah, you don't need to feel terrible because I kind of shared it, but I also obviously kind of kept it to myself because, So what happened was I went into hospital on the 21st or the 20th of October, 2 days after my birthday, right? 2023. And it was the eclipse season. It was brutal. It was my birthday. I would get very sad around my birthday because I just felt like there wasn't that many people who loved me. It was just a theme from when I was a child. And it's just, again, it's one of the difficult ones to get rid of. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I was feeling sorry for myself. It was my birthday. And I became very, very sick. I went into hospital on the 21st. I became ill on the 20th, went into hospital the 21st. And I had colitis. And it was like, but I mean, it showed up on the CAT scan as colitis. And I've had a lot of issues, gut issues, like... I've had many CAT scans, MRIs, colonoscopies, endoscopies, those kind of things. And this time I nearly went into septic shock. So my whole body was convulsing. I was on morphine. And pretty much if I hadn't have got to the hospital when I did, then I would have died.
Jeez.
And I would have died very quickly. So it wouldn't have been like, painful. It would have been very sudden, but I would have died at 35. Like, come on. So I was like, I can't die at 35.
I've got cold chills.
So yeah, I got chills. And when I was in the hospital, I was in so much pain. I was saying to my boyfriend, I was like, I can go. I was like, I'm ready to go. Like,
oh my God.
And he was just like, shut the f up. He was like, no. And my mum can relate to this because my mum had gastric food poisoning where she nearly had kidney failure. And she was in so much pain that she was saying to my dad, like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm kind of like, I can't handle this much longer. So, I'm ready to go. So it's kind of like, I think a lot of people might maybe have to relate to that because I was in excruciating pain for 11 hours because they didn't know what was wrong with me. And I live in England and we have the NHS, which God bless the NHS. It's amazing. But
universal
since
healthcare,
COVID,
right?
So now it's I guess it's the national healthcare.
Okay. Yeah.
The NHS. It's like it's free healthcare. We have free healthcare here.
Right. Okay.
So it's very different to America.
Yeah.
But since coronavirus, it's very strained. It's very it's understaffed and they get so being in there, like I could see the patients being mistreated, but I could see the staff being mistreated as well. It was a non-nice place to be. So they were they had no beds for me. So I was in there for 28 hours. They had no beds. They had people on the floor. But luckily, luckily, not so luckily, the 11 hours that I was in pain, it wasn't 11 hours when I was in hospital. So I got there at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, 8 hours, 7 p.m. The pain went away. And when I was in there, I just kept getting this message, like, this is a death and rebirth. And I was like, okay. And they were like, you can't keep, like, when I say you, I'm referring to like God. To me, like, God is not the man in the clouds, but just creator, source energy, my higher self, whatever you want to call it. And they were saying to me, you can't keep living the way that you're living because you are so... I had chronic stress and chronic fatigue. I had adrenal fatigue and I had colitis. So, and I'd picked up on some, like, the doctor was like, I think you picked up on a deadly virus. And I was like, you can say that again. But the thing is, when I came out of hospital, I just kept getting these downloads and they were like, right, unfollow these people, stop talking to these people, stop doing this, stop doing that, keep doing this, keep doing that. I would get outside. I was grounding myself. I was meditating. I was doing breath work, and I didn't work for a while. I couldn't work for a while. And I had to change my whole lifestyle because I realized like I was stressing over things that were not important. It was a little bit embarrassing, like the things I was stressing about. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, like I can't remember the pain. I know it hurt, but like I can't literally remember it right now. I know every breath I took, I was in like so much pain, but it changed the trajectory, or however you say the word, of my life because I wasn't going anywhere. Like I was just spinning around in a circle. Like this person did this and that person did that, and this doesn't happen, and oh, this won't happen. Like I was just so negative. Um, and I didn't even realize. So it was crazy. And then since then, I've just changed almost everything about my life. And I got to say it was a blessing as well because like when people were like, can you do this? Can we do that? I was like, sorry, I've just been in hospital. I nearly died, so I can't do that. They
Best
were like,
excuse ever.
understandable. They were
Yeah.
like, okay, fair enough.
Right.
So it was really cool because even for Christmas, Christmas is very stressful for me. And because I would always just do what everyone else wanted to do. And this Christmas, just gone, I got to be like, nope, sorry. I've been so stressed and I've been so ill that I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. So I got to just have a really chilled Christmas. And I realized like I got the message from my guides as well that like they were like, we had to do it this extreme for you to change because it was very extreme. It was unbelievably extreme. But they were like, we had to make it this extreme, otherwise you were never going to change. And I was like, okay, I get that.
Did you
I get it.
realize in the moment? I mean, clearly you stayed. I mean, you maintained a certain level of awareness during all of that. But when you got sick and you landed in the hospital, did you
Yeah.
think for a minute that something might be transitioning, that an opportunity might be coming out? Did you think like that? Because very few
Uh,
people
I'll tell
do.
you, I'll tell you what I thought. I thought I'd been cursed, first of all. I thought that someone had cursed me because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in I know it's real because I've seen it. I've seen people do it. I've seen people talk about it. And that is something that I got introduced to last year as well, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how bad it was and how people the things that people can do. The way that's what I'm saying. Like you can use it for evil or you can use it for good.
Right.
Like people do have spiritual awakenings and are aware and choose to use their capabilities for evil. And the first thing when I was on the floor and my boyfriend was calling an ambulance, I was thinking like, oh my God, I've been cursed. Someone's cursed me. Like that's the first thing that crossed my mind because I was in so much pain and it just seemed to come out of nowhere. Um, like as in I've had the underlying chronic health issues, but it was like I was in it was like someone was stabbing me.
Yeah.
Like it was so painful. And that was the first thing. And then when I got to the hospital, that's when I was like, oh my God, like yeah, but quite soon after I got to the hospital, like the whole time that I was in pain, I couldn't think of anything other than me, like it was me like talking to God. I was just like, what is this? Why is this happening? Like, and I wasn't really getting that much back at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think when anyone says when they are about to die or they know they're going to die or they think they're going to die or not that I thought I was going to die at that point, but I was concerned because they weren't they weren't really doing much in the hospital and they didn't know what was wrong with me. They just kept giving me morphine
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't taking the pain away and they weren't tracking what they were giving me. So it was kind of scary. But the thing that like, people talk about like like if they're going to be if a plane is going down, everyone turns to God, don't they? Everyone's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like that's what happens, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So like when I was super, super, super in pain, like that's who I was talking to. I was talking to God.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah. And like my mom was trying to ring me and I was like, I can't talk to you. I was like, I cannot talk to you. I cannot string a conversation together. The only thing I was saying to Jack was like, go and ask them what's wrong with me. Go and ask them for more pain relief. Go and ask them where's the doctor? Like, and he was like, I can't keep asking them because I'm not supposed to be in this room with you. It was like supposed to be patients only.
Right.
Like everything happened divinely though, because the Saturday they wouldn't let family members be with the patients, but he got to stay with me. And I was like, if he wasn't with me, I wouldn't have even allowed it because I was really bad. But then the next day they made me stay for longer because they needed to monitor me with the amount of morphine and painkillers they were given and the antibiotics. The next day, they wouldn't let him stay. So I was like, look at that. Like, imagine if that was like, it all just worked. But I was feeling better. As soon as the pain went away, I was good. Like, one of the ladies in the waiting room, she was like, I thought you were going to die. She was like, I thought your appendix had burst. She was like, I was going to come up and get the doctor and be like, what are you doing with this woman?
Right.
You know? But now hand on heart, I believe that it all happened for a reason to change my life. And one thing I'll say more on it quickly is that afterwards I then had to, have tests and colonoscopy and all those kinds of things. And what I did every day, I meditated and I visualized the doctor saying to me, because I didn't want them to say that you have like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or anything like that, which is what it was going towards. So I would visualize me having the colonoscopy because I've had one before, so I know what it's like. And then I would have the doctor come into the room and say, we didn't find anything. We don't know what happened. It's a freak accident, not an accident, freak incident. And I'm sorry I can't give you any more, but that's what it is. And that's what happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
And see,
and I've been great since. I've been
right.
really good
You
since.
look great.
Thank you.
I mean, when those types of, catastrophic health events happen, and of course it's easy for me to say this sitting here right now in this chair feeling just fine. But when those events happen, and this is why I so wanted you to be a guest on my show, it's about the meanings that we attach to it. And even though when somebody's health goes off the rails and they're there in the ER and they're screaming in pain and they're scared and they don't know what's happening, if a person could just strip away all of the meanings that they have, all these stories that they've created around sickness throughout their lifetime, if they could just strip that away and just for a second entertain the thought that maybe an opportunity might come out of this, or maybe something good might come out of this. If they could just think that way, in the moment, because you are living proof that things happen for a reason. And sometimes we're being protected, as crazy as that may be to some people to perceive, but oftentimes things like that are the way that God protects us, and that's exactly, I feel like, what happened with you. I mean, I know of several people that went into the hospital with similar sicknesses and they didn't make it. And it's like, so you really did have like a legit near-death experience, and the way that the whole thing transpired is just absolute, like, divine intervention.
Yeah. And you know what? So I work with an astrologist, and I was like, what happened? And I gave her the date, the time and everything. And she looked into it. This was like a month after, because I really took my time to recover and just be by myself and stuff like that. And she said that it was a death chart. She said that it was Neptune, which it represents poison, and Scorpio, which is the colon, which is where it was. And she said that it was a death chart. She was like, your colon would have been poisoned. And that's kind of what was happening, because it was going to turn into septic shock.
Right.
So I was like, wow. And then when she told me that, I was like, oh my God. But I was like so empowered. I was like, wow, like I nearly died. And yet I didn't. And like, how crazy and how precious. And like the whole time I was in there, like 100% what you said. Like, I was just so grateful when I was not in pain anymore. I was just like, I was on cloud nine. I was sitting in the hospital, chatting away to everyone, very chill. And then there were people there who were like, telling me about their illnesses and their symptoms and stuff. And it was like, this is it. There's nothing I can do about it. I've got to live with it. And I was just like, nope. I was like, nope, that's not my take on it. I was like, that is not my take on it. That is not how I will live my life. And I think that it's quite rare to have that kind of outlook. And a lot of people who have cancer and survive will say it's the best thing that happened to them, because it made them realize how precious life is.
Yeah, and I really do believe that a person who, against all odds, let's just say, they beat a fatal disease. Okay, if we're all from the same source, then why does one person survive and the other one doesn't? There's a reason for that. And this, what I'm getting ready to say, is backed by empirical studies. A person's mindset is everything. And, even that word mindset sounds kind of fixed. But if you stay in a growth mindset and you think, okay, no one's a finished product, nothing is completely written. Okay, so this person died from this, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to. I think when you can think that way, in that moment, you create a vibe of healing, because our bodies are wired to heal ourselves.
Yeah.
And our bodies, they're wired to heal. They'll heal themselves.
100%.
Right.
And actually, when you were speaking, I had a realization. I don't think that I would have been this way if I hadn't have done the Joe Dispenza meditation retreat that I did in October 2022. Because I saw people and heard people's stories who were like terminal, and they don't have cancer anymore. And there were different people who couldn't walk and they can walk now, and different illnesses. And I know because I had depression, and it's not necessarily thought of that you have depression, you get rid of depression. It's kind of like you have depression and that's it, you have depression. And even though I can slide back into it because it's a path that I've walked most of my life, I'm not a depressed person anymore.
Right.
So if I hadn't have been around that mindset, that way of thinking, that realization that we can heal ourselves, that we can heal ourselves, that stress is the biggest killer. I was incredibly stressed. That it's not just diet. It's like, it's our thoughts, it's our actions, our inactions, it's who we spend our time with, it's our outlook on life. Like, I don't think I would have been like that. I think that I would have I would have probably gone into victim mode. And I think that a lot of people that get sick, a lot of people that have mental health issues, it's quite nice to be, oh, he or she's the one who, oh, be careful, they can't do this, they can't do that, and they need a little bit extra attention. But actually, when you're sick, people don't really have that patience for you. You think that they're going to be patient and they're going to be more loving towards you, but actually people just don't care. So like, I've known from being very mentally unwell, very physically unwell, people don't care. and like, I care about people, but most people don't care. And once you get past the point of you're doing it to yourself, people lose patience. Like, people do lose patience, and we get addicted to being unwell. We get addicted to being the victim. We get addicted to being like, oh, woe is me. Oh, sorry, I can't do that because of this.
Right.
Oh, give me a little bit of extra attention because of this. And that's the thing, right? As well, when I became better, when people would ask me, oh my God, how are you? Like, what the hell? And I'd be like wanting to go, oh my God, it was horrible. Oh my God, it was this, it was that, it was this. But I had to stop myself and be like, no, I'm better now. Even when I wasn't necessarily, I'd be like, no, I'm okay now. I'm better now. And they'd be like, really? And I'd be like, yeah. And I actually am better now. But like, I had to stop being that person who was sick and be like, no, I'm better now, because I wanted to be better. And if I'm a better person, I'm not going to tell people that I'm sick.
Right. I have a very hard time vocalizing certain things. And so if I don't feel well, I'm probably not going to say that to anybody. And so everything that you're bringing up here is absolutely so profound and beneficial for people that do have a fixed mindset, in a way that they do immediately go into victim mode. And I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I personally think, then this is based on everything you just said, it's those subconscious beliefs. And I saw something the other day that said our subconscious beliefs control like 90% of our behavior.
Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah.
And if you think about that, that explains why, just like you said, someone doesn't care. They hear that someone is struggling with their mental health and they're either aloof or flippant, or they blow that person off. Well, what do kind of beliefs do they have about mental health? Clearly,
Hmm.
not the correct ones. Most
Yeah.
of the beliefs that people have in their subconscious are subjective, false.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, they're not objective beliefs. They're not looking at the facts. And so I know where I grew up. Well, we didn't know any. I mean, nobody mentioned mental health. Oh my God. And
No, that's what I mean. When I was a child,
nobody.
I didn't know I had depression. I
No.
would have been laughed at if I said, no, I'm depressed. They would have been like,
Hmm.
no, you're not. What
Oh
do you
my
have to be
goodness.
depressed about, right? You're a child.
Right. Right. And I was like ridden with anxiety as a child. I didn't know what
Hmm.
that was. I was crucified for it.
Yeah.
I was punished.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Bad. And so that shit carries over and it gets in here. And so that's why the work that you do with the Akashic Records, in my opinion, is it's life changing. It's transformative because
Yeah.
a lot of people go through their entire lives and they don't get this piece of it. They just like
Yeah.
they're on autopilot, like
Exactly. Well,
right?
I think that's what it is before you
Hmm.
have a spiritual awakening, kind
Yeah.
of. I had a like epiphany. I have epiphanies all the time. I'm just like having these downloads and I'm just like, whoa, I love it. But
Hmm.
I had one the other day. I was sat on the sofa and I was thinking about when you unconsciously do things. And I was like, I had this theory that came through and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And it's like you get to choose what you want to do. Like what, like when you're aware, like when you're conscious, like you're like, I'm a human. Like, God, like I'm having a human experience. Whoa,
Right.
like cool. This is cool. I have a body. I'm doing this. Like, whoa, what do I want to do? I could do this. I could do that. I could like when you're so conscious and you're thinking about the things that you're saying, like this ties into the Akashic Records. So when you open the records, you say a pathway prayer.
Hmm.
And I say to my students, I'm like, if you're not present and you don't mean it when you say the prayer, the records don't open up and you don't get loads of information. Like if you say it and you mean it, like affirmations don't work if you're like just blase saying them and you're not meaning it and feeling it. Like it doesn't work. You're absent-mindedly saying it.
Right.
So like I was sat on the sofa and I was like, well, hang on a minute. I was like, what if like what if the real like gift in life is that you get to know that you're like, that you're here. Like, do
Hmm.
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's so trippy. It's like, you're like, I know that I'm
Hmm.
here right now.
Hmm.
And I'm this and I'm that. Like, not that I am this, not that I'm a 36-year-old woman who lives in London. Like, just like, but I am at the same time. Like, I've chosen this, like I've chosen this body. I've chosen this name. I've chosen to look like this, right?
Hmm.
Like, obviously I can change things if I want to, but like, this is the avatar, the meat suit I
Hmm.
chose.
Hmm.
And like, when you have that like realization, you're just like, holy smoke, like, and then you kind of realize, like, oh, wow, what I said the other day to that person, that wasn't nice. And you're like, God, but I didn't mean it, like, because I
Right.
wasn't. And that's when you kind of can have forgiveness for people as well. And you realize, like, ah, they snapped at me, but I didn't really mean to snap at me. They probably don't even remember that they snapped at me,
Right.
you know?
Hmm. It's those
Anyway, that kind
meanings.
of like
Hmm.
yeah, something that I realized. And then I was just like, whoa. Sometimes I go outside and I look at the stars and they're genuinely moving. And I'm
Hmm.
like, wow. Like, I feel like that's extraterrestrials
Yeah.
talking to me.
Hmm. Hmm. And this is
Yeah.
like, okay, so this really ties into one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because everything you just said, so you are definitely a person who is divinely guided.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. And every
100%.
day, I'm like, thank you.
Yes.
I'm like walking around, and I'll just suddenly go, I go, thank you. Because I mean it. Like, because
Mm-hmm.
I know what it's like to be depressed, lost, broke, sad,
Mm-hmm.
like very unhappy. I know what it's like. So I'm like, all the time, I'm like, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, me too. And
Yeah.
so many people that I talk to, um, I don't think that they'll say, well, how do I know when I'm being divinely guided? And so, I mean, I know what that feels like for me, but what does it really feel like for you? Like, could you just paint a
Yeah,
picture of that?
absolutely. I would say so. I realize when I'm like conscious and when I'm unconscious. Okay, so what we were speaking about before we jumped on the podcast today, right? For example, it's a Sunday. I was in such a bad mood. I was in such a bad mood. I felt drained. I felt exhausted. I knew that I'd done it to myself. So I was a bit peed off at myself. And I had two options. I had more than two options, but I was aware of two options. I sit down in front of the TV and I binge watch TV all day. I eat chocolate and sugar. You know, speaking from someone who just was in hospital not that long ago, I can eat anything I want because I genuinely believe I've healed myself. Not to the point where I'll never get sick again because I can go back down there. But before I couldn't have certain foods and now I can.
Oh, I remember you saying that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I had forgotten about that. Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Uh-huh. And so I believe when you know you're divinely guided, or yeah, so for me, I know that I'm not alone, right? So
Right.
as in like I have my spirit council, that's what I call them, the Akashic Records, my higher self, God, my loved ones who've passed over. There'll be beings that are not in physical form who I haven't met in this lifetime who are constantly communicating with me. And I trust that, and I know that I'm not alone. So that makes a big difference, I think, to someone's life, quality of life. And then also, I wasn't divinely guided to sit and binge mong out on the TV today. So then all of a sudden, this realization came to me, and it was like, get up, go make some healthy, nice food, and go do some cleaning and tidying, go sage the house, and you'll feel better. And I did. And that was me being divinely guided because, and that sounds so like simple and like not a big deal, but
No, it's like a
it's in the
dopamine hit.
everyday, it's in the everyday moments, right? And I know that when I got sick, I was divinely guided. I know that, well, I personally believe that, we get sick, like the manifestation of an illness in our physical body just comes from stress, emotions, thoughts. And it's a warning, you know, it's like, and then you can look at where it is in your body, the chakra, the organ, and you realize that you're being divinely guided to investigate. You know, like the game Operation. Do you guys have that in America?
I had that as
It's
a
like
child.
it's like a board game, yeah, right? And then
Yep.
it's like there's the body parts, and it's like bzz. So
Yeah.
it's like you're getting that information, like go check this out. Why am I tired all the time? Or why do I get headaches? Everything has a meaning. And I think you're being divinely guided then, but I think most people miss it. Most people think it's a inconvenience, which it is. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
It's not convenient to be sick. I think you're being divinely guided when there is an issue, but we tend to either escape it, numb it, ignore it, stuff it down, or we can face it. And you're being divinely guided when you face it, I believe.
You're 100% right. And anytime, the best way that I can kind of just sum it up when I'm divinely guided, which is all the time. I mean, like you, I will just act on something without thinking twice.
Yeah.
And it's just totally acting on intuition. I don't think about it. I don't give it a second thought. I just do it and don't really know why, but it fixes a problem. Or it helps me maybe hear a subtle whisper that maybe I haven't been listening to. Or, you know, a solution to a problem just naturally emerges. And, you know, it leads me to something, you know, it leads me down a path. And so that's what it looks like for me. And so I wanted you to talk about that for just a second, because all of this so ties into your work, and I really want to get into that just in our last few minutes together.
Yeah.
Because
can I just say one thing?
Oh, yes,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Because it ties into my work and what you've just said. So like when I channel the Akashic Records, I'll open the records and before even thinking, I will speak. So like say I'm giving someone a reading, I won't get information like I'll see things, I hear things, I know things. I don't then try and figure it out and logically in my head and then tell it to the person. I just speak. So it's the same thing. That's like divine like channeling. That's not me, right? So I'll speak. And that's like when I did it earlier when I said I was like, oops, like I'll speak before I think about it. Right. And then I'm like, oops. And then I'm like, but it's okay, it's the records. So and I say to the person that I'm reading for all the time, I'm like, I don't know why, but blah 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 blah. And it's the same thing. Like,
and there's no
but
ego.
You're acting on it in your day. Yeah, there's no ego.
You're not second guessing it. Yeah.
Exactly. And like if there was ego, then I would try and think, oh, what's the best way to say this? How can I, like, you know, in a reading, how can I blow their mind? You know, like, and it's just not about that. It's not about that. It's about the person gets what they need, irregardless of me knowing why or what it means, because it's not about me. So yeah, I just wanted to say it ties in together. And often when I do remote readings, so someone will send me a message and give me their full name and their permission, I'll open their Akashic Records. I don't know this person. I don't know what they look like. I don't know anything about them. It's kind of daunting, but it's fun at the same time for me to like expand my like channeling skills. So then I'll read the prayer, I'll open the records, and I'll voice note them. And before I have 1 second to think, what might this person really be like? What should I say? I will start speaking. And it's like this second of like almost being terrified, but then I'll just go into it. And then I get their feedback from them, like sometimes like the next day. And I'm like waiting and I'm like, oh my God, did it like at the end, I'm always like, can you let me know if that made sense? Can you let me know if that resonated? And then they were like, I can't believe you said that, blah, 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 blah. It was so good. And then I'm like, and I'm like, I don't even know how to process it sometimes because I'm like, what is this? I couldn't possibly know this information. That's why I know it's real, because I don't know this person in freaking Sydney, Australia, who's like never met me before, asked me to do a reading for them because they've randomly found me on social media. You know, like I don't know them. So it's really cool. Like for anyone who wants to do this type of work, that's a really good way to practice is you kind of have to throw yourself in the deep end as well. Sorry, I just felt like I had to say that.
Oh no, I'm glad you did, because that was brilliant. That was absolutely, and that's going to help. I think that's going to help people grasp these concepts, because I'll be the first to admit, I mean, it's complex stuff here. That not
It is.
it's not
I don't have
widely
this
understood.
information overnight. Yeah,
Right.
this is so much researching, my own experience, attending like you do, studying, learning, researching. You know, like it's taken me a while to get here, but like the things I know, they don't. I know. I just know they don't come from me. They come from like a higher place.
Well, do you want to show everybody a quick and dirty example, just using yours
Yeah.
truly here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Go
Okay.
on.
So do you
Well,
want to
so
just
like, do you want me to read
like
the records kind of thing?
just like just to show people what it looks like, and then
Yeah.
also after we do that, I want to let people know how to find you, and then talk about
Yep.
too if this might be a career path they want to take. And then I got to tell
hmm
you about a couple of things that some little birdies have told me about you recently, going through
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
your is it, do you call it an academy or a workshop or
So I have trainings and then I also do readings.
okay.
So I do sometimes I used to call it like the Akashic Records Academy because it's like training, but
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, now I just kind of call it training or readings. That's all that I do really is I read or I train people
Mm-hmm.
how to do I do it myself
Mm-hmm.
or I show people how to do it, which is what I prefer. I prefer to show other people how to do it. And because I'm like, you guys, you have to do this. It's so cool. Like, come
Mm-hmm.
on, like, don't make me be the only one. Like, I
Right.
learned this, then I studied it because I was the only person that I knew who was doing it. So then I went and did a certification in it just to meet other people. And everything I learned, I already knew how to do. And I'd done it myself. So I was just like, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I teach people how to do it as well, because yeah, and because I came from not being a spiritual person, so I understand what it's like to be a non-spiritual person, whatever you want to call it. Um, but yeah, so shall I do a reading
Let's
now?
do it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So am I reading you or am I just doing a general collective reading?
You can just read. I think you can just read me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay. So let's see. Got to go in. I got to find something, then I got to go into it without thinking about it.
Sure. You tell me what you need from me.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I coughed then. So the way that I channel is my body will I get signs through my body as well. So if something happens in my body, then I'll know that that's something to do with it too. So I just coughed,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna say that you just as I did that, my stomach was like, "Brr." So I'm going to take that on board as well. Okay, so like throat chakra and I'm going to say the sacral chakra. And you are, I don't know, I see you speaking on stages or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I see you getting nervous about it
Yeah.
and choking up a little bit as I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the what they want to say is you've got to dig deep. So you got to dig into your creativity. And it's interesting because like the whole conversation that we've been having is really like about being your most authentic self, right? It's like saying your opinion even if people don't agree with it. That's being authentic. Yeah, in a good way, like not necessarily in a Trump way or something, you know, like
Right.
speaking down someone's throat or something.
Right.
But
Right.
sorry, I can't believe I mentioned him. I never even speak about him.
Oh no, using it for good. It goes back to using this for good, not bad. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I don't know, like I get like a talk show. I see you being on some kind of like a talk show or something. And I get this, okay, this is so random, but that's how it works. I get this message, like when you do it, you need to wear like a power suit. So you need to wear like a block color, you know, like a matching pant and blazer. Like I see you wearing a strong color and it's maybe like high-waisted bottoms. And you like, you know, like when you stand with your hands on your hips, like it's meant to like raise your testosterone or something. It's meant to make you like genuinely feel more confident. So I just get this message of like when they come calling, because they will, don't like I get like you seeing yourself going along this timeline and growing and maybe being ahead of certain people, but then these other people are going to come knocking and you're going to feel like you're behind or you're or less than. But you've got to keep that energy and be genuine, but also be vulnerable and be authentic because not a lot of people can do that.
Right.
So when bigger people, like as bigger people, like I mean like big names, like people that people know of, come, you can't shrink yourself. And you can't, I see you maybe having a little bit of a freak out, and that's fine. You can have a freak out. Like you can go, oh my God, what's happening? But you've got to stay true to yourself, which you will. You will stay true to yourself. But it's about maybe looking after yourself. I think you need to look after yourself a little bit more, because when it comes to like manifestation of like the throat chakra, not being able to speak the way that you want to, that usually comes from like a deep inner insecurity. So look after yourself on a, you know, like on a emotional, I'm not meaning like on a physical way, like in an emotional way. And just remember that people love you for who you are. So you got to stay true to that. A lot of people, when they get big, they change who they are, and they do dilute their message because they want to be for the mass. You know, they want to be for the mass. And don't do that. Like, I just get, don't do that. And I see the suit, it's going to be like red or blue or something like that. Like, you're going to go, you'll be on television or like, I don't know, some kind of network, maybe some big social media platform. I don't know. I don't want to say for sure that it's television. It just feels like that. And that's where you're going to wear your power suit and you're going to like speak your truth. And they're going to say like, wow, like, I see something in Australia as well, actually. Something to do with Australia.
Interesting. Well, I was a guest on a podcast not too long ago, and the host, she's in Australia. Yeah, so who knows? I mean, something might spring from that. Yeah.
And just be open, you know, like kind of like what you were saying earlier when you're saying that like sometimes you when you're divinely guided, you'll get something. Oh my gosh, this always happens when I'm channeling, I lose my words, but like it's like you a situation will change or something. It's like be so open that like that podcast blows up in 6 months time, you know, like even if it hasn't now doesn't mean it won't in the future,
right?
You know, like anything is possible,
right?
In a good way. Yeah, what do you think of that? That's just like spurred.
No, it resonates and it feels just right. And I have to tell, there's a reason that I wanted you to do this, because I wanted people to see how effortlessly this information comes forward. And I also wanted to let people know what popped up in the last reading that you did. And you started coughing in the last reading.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. Wow.
Throat chakra.
I forgot about that.
And during that reading, and you didn't know this. I mean, you didn't know this about me. But I was at that time really, really struggling with, I don't know, playing it safe in the stuff that I talked about and wrote about. And was really afraid to say the things I wanted to say, tell my story the way I wanted to tell it. And I was being very guarded and sheepish and not approaching it confidently at all. It's just like everything I was doing felt very scripted.
Yeah.
Well, after our reading, and that, came up about the throat chakra, and that I needed to, like, as quickly as possible, talk about something that's authentic to me. If you go back to my videos on social media and you look at the things that I said and the way that I behaved before that reading, and then you go back and you look after, it is a remarkable change. And how I talk, the way I speak, the stuff I talk about. And the first thing that I talked about on social media that I had been hesitant to talk about, I did it, and it went viral in an hour.
Wow. Look at that. Oh my God, I got chills.
It's true. It's true. And so this throat chakra thing is coming up again. And I know why. Like, there's a situation going on, and Will knows about it too. There's a situation going on right now that I have had to shrink myself just a bit to keep the peace. So everything that you just said, and you don't know about any of that, and so everything that you just said is spot on, just in that itty bitty amount of time. I mean, it's like,
it's wild, right? And you know what, as well, like, I coughed, and I was gonna, and this, I always say this, I was gonna ignore it. So I'm like, oh, whatever. I just coughed, like, oh, whatever. And this is what happens when I get something really small. And this is how I try to teach people, because it's difficult to do this, but it's in the subtleties. And when I still battle with my ego when I'm channeling, because it's natural. So, like, sometimes, and we're being recorded. Like, obviously, I want to, like, it's natural that I don't want it to be like a flat reading. I don't want it to be terrible. But at the same time, I have to be genuine and I have to trust. So that's what, when I don't know if I switch off my left side of my brain or something, because I've done it so many times, but I coughed and I went to ignore it. And then I was like, no. And then just because I took it, then all the information comes through and I'm like, oh, wow. And then,
and it's not like you've been coughing through this whole interview. I mean, we've been talking now for quite some time, and you hadn't coughed, and you immediately did. Right?
And I completely forgot. And I remember in your last reading, they wanted you to sing, right? Because it was the throat chakra too. And I forgot about, it's not like I was like remembering, like, oh, okay, hang on, last time we spoke about this. And like that, I just don't have it in me to do it like that. But that's what people genuinely think people do. But yeah. So, a lot of the times with my readings, they like to bring through future potentials because they want to connect people with their highest timeline,
right?
Which would be, people showing up as their most authentic, abundant, creative self, inspiring other people, being inspired and inspiring other people. So it's not a surprise that they immediately go to something that's like super special that can happen in your future,
Right.
So,
and my voice has got a lot to do with that.
Yes, right?
Right.
It really does.
Right. So,
and also just like people love how authentic you are. You have big fans. You have people who, like, they speak to me, and they love you, and I love you, So it's like you just got to keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I love all of you all, and for the people that are listening, I have a manifestation challenge community, and it is a private Facebook page for people who sign up for my manifestation challenges. And I'm going to rename those, by the way, because they're more like self-empowerment challenges. It's not really about the manifestation is just like the outcome, but I'm going to rename those, but I won't get off on a tangent on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so there's several hundred people in this group at this point. And I think, Rebecca, you joined the group. It's been, a year and a half ago, maybe, or something like that?
Something like that. It's definitely more than a year, yeah.
And you have done Akashic Records readings for several people in the group.
Yeah.
And every single person, of course, all the readings were different. But every single person, in one way or another, took a piece of that divine communication that came through, and they improved their lives in one way or the other, whether it was
that's amazing.
raising their awareness to something. I mean, oh my God, I won't mention anybody's names because I don't have their permission, although I don't think they would care, but I won't do that. But you'll know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
One girl went and started her real estate business
Wow.
after her reading with you.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Okay, and she's
I'm acting
climbing.
like I don't know.
She's clawing.
I was like thinking
But
about
she's doing it.
Yes. Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
I
Yeah,
love
she
her.
is a superstar. Yeah, we were talking about you. I was with her the other day. We were talking about you. She's amazing.
She is.
Yeah, she is amazing. I love her. I
And
love her.
that's
And
that's
yeah,
a Texas girl.
that's a Texas girl, and she was putting that off for, and this is like my favorite, like you and her and many other people. They're my favorite people to work with because you take action on what comes through. You know, it doesn't matter to me if you take action or not. I like it when you do, but when you take the action from the Akashic Records, which you have and she has, like whoa, like
Yeah.
she is flying, like and she was so afraid.
Scared to death.
She was so afraid. Yeah.
Scared to death. And then you've got another Texas girl that's actually, and you'll know who it is, that's actually, I guess it started out as a reading, but then she enrolled in your training.
Yeah.
And I have been coaching her. And it's like some kind of a pivot, because just 2 months ago, she was scared straight by what people thought about her.
Yeah.
And it really had a grip on her, and it controlled her, all of her relationships, everything. Very concerned about what people thought, and everything. The meaning that she'd put behind that was everybody judged her very harshly. You know, there was not a lot of positive talk. Well, since she's been working with you, she is starting a business that is not only out of the box, out of the norm, but man, unheard of to be an Akashic Records reader in her neck of the woods and around the people that raised her. And so she's just really developed strength that she was strong to begin with, but it's different. It's next level. And she's unapologetic about it at this point. It's not that she doesn't have a twinge of that, you know, those old beliefs. She's got a twinge. But for the first time, she's seeing it from a different perspective, and she's willing to let it go, and she is excited about starting this business.
Yeah.
So you help people a lot.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, because I need the feedback, because I'm like, what am I like, most of the time I'm like, did that make sense? Because I don't know if it made sense. And I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing, because I'm trusting. I'm just doing things that, like, I take action, like, on things without really thinking it through, you know, and talking myself out of it. And like the second person you're talking about, she is like a lot of people. When she started the training, she was like, am I going to be able to do this? Like, am I going to be like am I going to be someone who can't do it? And I'm like, trust me, everyone feels like that. Everyone, because anyone I teach how to read the records, I always say it's an experience, because you can't understand it unless you do it. Because otherwise it's just theoretical, right? And so I was like, trust me, it's okay to feel like that. Everyone feels like that. I felt like that. You know, I was already reading tarot for a couple of years before I moved into the Akashic Records. And when I was asked by my old business partner to do it the first time, I was like, what if I can't do it? And she was just like, of course you can. And because everyone feels like that. And now, like, she's doing it, and I'm like, I say to people, life before the Akashic Records and life after, because it's like, it's so different. Like, once you realize that you can channel, and you're just like, what the hell is this? Like, oh my God.
Right.
It's you'll never be the same. You'll never ever be the same. And now we're 4 sessions in to the training, and she's doing she's done so well from the beginning. And I find with each training program, the people are more and more, they just get to it, you know, what they say, like ducks to water or whatever. So yeah, she's like, and that's what I love.
She's excited.
I love that people are holding themselves back, and then they stop holding themselves back, because
Right.
we're the only ones holding ourselves back.
That's it. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And so you do...
Yeah, we just need to get out of our own way.
Right, exactly. And you do also, on that note, you also do energy clearings.
Yes.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite things to do, actually. Mm-hmm. And we need to do one, actually.
We have to do one. Yeah.
Not that you need one, but I offered you one.
Yeah.
I would like to do that for you. So I have this gift where I can take people into meditation, and then I can take them on like a visual journey. And then I can clear things for them.
Gotcha.
So old outdated patterns of thinking, irrational fears, not like as in like someone's afraid of flying and then they have a session with me and they can fly. I mean like ones where they don't realize that they're stopping, like making them feel unconfident or something, you know?
Right.
Or like that's why they haven't started their own business, because they don't know that they've got this thing deep down below the surface. So like those kinds of things, grounding people. A lot of spiritual people are very ungrounded. I can be very ungrounded because all this like woo-woo crazy stuff, like, you know, you're not very grounded, are you? Like you're living in the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and it can be hard to manage them because they're so different and they work on different. I mean, one place doesn't have time and the other place does. So like, yeah, it's a lot. And also most people don't get it. Like most people don't believe in this. Most people don't understand. So it's really difficult for a lot of people because they feel very misunderstood. So yeah, I do a lot of clearings to help people, whatever they're going through. So for you, you know, we can do something around your throat chakra.
Oh, I would love that. We'll book a session. We'll book a session soon.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
So let's talk about that before we wrap up. So tell everybody how to find you, and then I will also, of course, post your information with everything when this comes out. So.
Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate that. So a main place I'm on is like Instagram. I don't know why. It's just my place. I've tried TikTok, and honestly, like I need to be in a certain place to be able to handle two platforms. So Instagram, and then you can give them like my website as well, if that's okay. Okay. And that's where they can see testimonials, people's reviews. They can see me just share things. I'm pretty open. I share about like my struggles with depression and my spiritual awakening and how dark it's been. And yet like how the downloads that I get, like the epiphanies that I get, and I share a lot of that. So yeah, mainly Instagram. I am also starting my own podcast. I had a podcast before, and I'm restarting a new one.
Oh, cool.
Which I would love you to be a guest on.
Well, of course, that's a given.
Yes. Thank you. So yeah, but everything will be linked in my Instagram, to be honest. So just direct people there. I think it's like a nice place for people to see who I am. I do a lot on my stories. And I also do a lot of events. I do a lot of online events. I do like death and rebirth ceremonies, which is pretty much just like an inner part of you that you want to let go of, and birthing a new version of you. So that kind of thing.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's good to know. All right.
Birthing new things. Yay. Oh my God. Did you enjoy that? That was like the coolest, most fun conversation ever.
It was great. And I knew it would be.
Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.